talk about issues with our neighbors and build a groundswell of desert roots in Arizona, grassroots throughout the country, which is all very, very important. But somehow to me, this starts us at first or second base rather than play. Because once we learn how to engage people, what do we say to them? What is the substance? What are we talking about? When we talk about issues, how do we talk about them in a way that is just American, not Republican, not Democratic, not partisan, political, absolutely. Politics is matters of public concern. So everything we do in this country is political, whether we like politics or not. We're in it. So I think it's really important because of my observation that most people, including most of our elected officials, have no idea what this actually says. Nor do they have an idea of what Tara's going to be talking about, which is the state constitution. Our state legislators, I just had a conversation with one a few days ago. I said, it's great you all take this oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution of the state of Arizona. Do you have any idea what it says? No. I'm horrified to say. We don't, they don't. So no wonder we're walking around in a fog. Because if we're going to converse with people, the tools of activism are words, right? If we don't have the right words, we can't make the right arguments. We can't present in a non-defensive, listen in an accepting way to people who don't know what they're talking about, and do more than say. If we don't know these words, all we can say is, well, I think that's a good idea. That sort of sounds right. Well, why should anyone agree with you? It's not because I think it's a good idea. It's because it says so. We have a written constitution for a reason. It's meant to be read and used. And there's no disagreement about the actual words of this document. We must agree that it says what it says. And I say to people, don't get mad at me if I point this out. Get mad at Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. Don't get mad at me. All I'm doing is pointing out what these actually say. But I must say, although I had my own personal political problems from time to time with Nancy Pelosi, her behavior since she was put into the speaker's role has illustrated exactly what I said, what I'm talking about, and what I wish for each of us. She is strong, she is resolute, she is measured, and she is right, because she knows what this says. She knows who she is and why, not because someone thought it was a good idea. It's because it says so. And when she sits in the Oval Office and looks at Donald Trump and goes like this and says, Mr. President, we took an oath to protect and defend. That is real political strength. Because you can't disagree with that. He's sitting there looking, but that's where the strength comes from. And that's where each of us, this was written for us. It's not long. It's short. And it's written in very clear English. It's not flowery. It was meant to be used. So let me ask you real quickly. What's America? We all love America. What is it? And those of you who have taken my class, please don't answer. What is it? Democracy? Democracy? An ideal. Experiment.
It's a hemisphere.
What's a noun that applies to America?
Country. Republic.
It's a country. A republic. But it's basically a country, right? Okay, good. So we have agreement on that. America is a country. What's a country?
People. People.
People. Okay.
Boundaries.
Boundaries. Physical. Like there's real estate involved in any country.
Right.
We're just talking about any country.
Yeah.
Okay. Certain specific real estate.
They agree on certain laws. They agree to abide by certain
They
laws.
being,
The people who live within the jurisdiction.
so every country has people who agree on the laws.
Well, no.
Ah! Okay, so let me tell you what my definition of a country is for our purposes. A country is actually a system of laws, of rules. Every single country has a system of rules. Some countries, the rules are made by one guy, but it's still a system. It's that guy's system, okay? Our laws, like the laws of any country, the system of laws for any country, define what the country is and put our face out to the world. This is who we are. We have these rules that we are to live by, right? How do we know what our rules are? What are legal rules made of? Words.
Words, yeah. They're written down and then the practice is
Words
written down.
matter. If we want to know what America is, we need to know what the laws are that define America. One guy doesn't get to make the rules here. Not supposed to. Again, if we don't know what those words are when we engage people, we feel a little defensive. You know, the strength that Nancy Pelosi has when she says, we are the Article 1 branch. We're first. So you can just step aside, sir, because we're first. That strength doesn't come just from the sky. It comes because she knows what she's standing on this rock. This is our rock, you know? So if we want to be effective activists, I think it's really important that we at least get a working knowledge of the basic premises that are in this. And that's what my presentation does. And I will go anywhere for any amount of people, anytime, gratis. Just, you know, if I have cards and stuff, but if you want to know more about what I do and you want to participate, I'll give you my contact info, but that's to the side. So I want to do a little exercise. So I'm going to pass this out. And again, those of you, thank you. Those of you who have done this, please don't give away this. I'm going to show you how important this is. So here's a list of words. Only one of these words actually appears in the Constitution of the United States of America. Only one. Don't just look through it and decide what you think. And again, if you've had this exercise, please don't speak up. Thank you. Okay, who wants to guess? Yes. God.
Science.
Science.
Man.
Man. Anybody else?
Fairness.
Fairness.
Freedom.
Freedom. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so we have the fourth time in all the times I've given this, someone actually got it right. And that was you. How do you know?
Patents.
How do you know? Are you a lawyer?
What is it?
I should have disqualified you. Although many lawyers don't know.
I'm a constitutional lawyer, that's.
Yes, well, yeah. You know, because most lawyers don't know this either.
It's the section on patents and trademarks.
In Article 1,
Or not trademarks, patents.
in the patent office.
It's,
Article 1,
Article-
the Article 1,
Article 1, Section 8.
Section 8.
Which lists the.
powers of Congress. And you're going to get these, but it's in here. When you pick this up, go to Article 1, Section 8, powers of Congress, and you're going to see the word science. Now, think about words. If everybody knew that that was in here, think of the different conversations we might have been having in this society for the last 10 years. Okay? Science isn't important. Science, blah, 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 blah. No, that may be your idea, but unfortunately for you, this country is supposed to be governed by this. And the word science is in here, so go away. Leave them up in a nice way when you've been trained to speak, you know, people who disagree.
And what was the one of the very first acts of Congress in 1789 when they first convened?
It was
To create a statute to exercise their right under that clause to create patent laws.
Yes,
It was one of
that's
the very
right.
first things they did.
Yes, that's how important it was to the founders. So when you just knowing that science is in the Constitution, don't you have like a better feeling about getting into a conversation with somebody about whether science is important or not? It may not be important to you personally, but that's not the measure. The measure is, what does it say? Okay, what does it say? So there's that. I'm also going to, I would like, actually, I'd like those back. And if you could share this among two people.
I wrote on them.
You want it back?
Do you want them back if we wrote on them?
Oh, if you put notes, it's fine. Now, remember also that words like freedom and fairness don't appear in the Constitution, but yet they're important to us. So that's another conversation. Well, that's not in the Constitution. Well, yeah, but obviously we have things that aren't in the Constitution that are important. Okay? Fairness, liberty is in the Constitution, but not freedom.
Isn't it synonymous with it?
It may be. It's not. So when they talk about protect my freedoms, they're using a word that is not in the Constitution. You know, justice and fairness are also synonymous. So it's just literally whether a word appears. These guys who wrote this stuff were very, very well educated, very, very thoughtful people who in many cases couldn't stand each other's guts. And they spent a lot of time deciding what words were in and what words were out. So there's also stuff to be learned and to be thought about why certain words weren't, like God, weren't included. Why wasn't it included? If they put in science, but they didn't put in God, there was some intentionality. Now, we can have discussions about that, but if you don't even have it as a mindset, you don't have it available to you to engage people about it in a non-defensive way. You know? If you know what it says, you don't have to be defensive. Laws are legal rules that define any society, and in this country, the highest form of law is our Constitution, which is informed by the Declaration of Independence and the Preamble. Okay? If we don't know what those words in those documents actually contain, we don't know what America actually is, and we can't effectively protect and defend our freedom. Okay? The threat to the United States of America. This is a quote from Thomas Jefferson. If the people become inattentive to public affairs, those in charge of governing us shall all become wolves. Okay? He said that in 1787. The answer to the threat, according to Thomas Jefferson, is, I know of no safe depository of the ultimate powers of the society but the people themselves. And if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with a wholesome discretion, the remedy isn't to take it from them, but to inform their discretion by education. This is the true corrective of abuses of constitutional power. So if we feel that this is being abused, we have to know what it says first, right? Then we can decide whether it's being abused or not. So that's what this education is. Just basic. And then what you feel like going into more, you do on your own. Or find places, there are plenty of people who are doing that. You know, it can only empower you. Just remember Nancy Pelosi. We took an oath, we are the Article 1 branch. We are the Article 1 branch. Because that's our protection. And it's on us. It's on us. So then next, just I post some questions for you to think about and maybe talk about when you get together with your neighbors and stuff. It's been said that the United States is supposed to be a country that's governed by the rule of law, not by the rule of individual human beings. What does that mean? What does that mean? Do you believe it's important to our nation? Why or why not? Then, since the time of our founders, vigorous public debate about policy questions has been treasured and encouraged. Today, many of us seem to be engaged in vigorous debate about personalities rather than policies. Does that help make us stronger? Weaker? Why? Political and partisan are two, this is one of my pet peeves, are two completely different things. Does the widespread failure to distinguish between the two words affect our public discourse, and how? You know, words matter. If we can point out that we are spending a lot of time discussing partisan issues when we should be discussing policy issues, I think we will have come a long way to reaching some sort of basic consensus, you know, and getting people to work together to common solutions. But we have to know our common language. Yes.
So give us an example of something partisan.
Partisan is interpreting everything that it's a Democratic or a Republican issue rather than just an American issue. That's what partisan is, that it somehow is partisan to believe in the Constitution. You know, this tag is encouraging neighbors, no matter what their party affiliation, to talk about American issues, political issues, about how things get done in this country and our duty as citizens and residents of this country to be involved in public discourse.
So it's either very abstract or very non-abstract. There's not, in between, it's political. So the discussion is at the high level is partisan, and at the very specific, I'm voting with my Republican colleague is partisan.
Simply because they're
But
Republican.
mostly it's not partisan.
If you're talking about policies,
Yeah.
mostly it should be nonpartisan.
Right.
General policies that promote the general welfare, which absolutely actually is written in here also.
So a related question, why is, I'm being rhetorical, why is partisan such a bad word?
I don't think it is a bad word
Okay.
inherently, but like so many other words, one of the things that we've allowed to happen is we've allowed our language to be hijacked.
Right.
So progressive becomes a bad word. Conservative becomes a bad word. The labels that people put on each other have become, gotten a connotation of bad if you're on the other side, as if there's only two sides to every story, you know.
And we've quit talking to each other
Based
and
on that.
allow partisan, presentations stop us from talking to each other.
Yes.
And that certainly wasn't that way, let's say 30 or 40 years ago in Congress. And you had conservatives, proud to be a conservative, and liberals or,
Liberals is
actually
fine.
saying,
Let's take our language back.
but actually saying we have to talk.
Yeah.
And we have to pass this, we have a problem here. And we've got to do something about it. We've got to come together, conservative and progressives or liberals or whatever you want to call that side. But we haven't been doing that.
That's what we're going to try and start to do.
And, yeah, but that is, being partisan in itself is not bad. But it's when it becomes a roadblock, we wear a big badge here.
You're okay and I'm not. I'm okay and you're not. Whatever.
Yeah, and it goes beyond that. When the issue comes up, the partisan person is the person who's going to say, okay, well, I think it's a good idea, but we're not going to vote for that. We're not, because it's not us.
Because it's not us.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the inability to get together with the other side to make that dialogue that you talked about. Let's take of the 5 or 6 things, let's take the 3 we can agree on and go forward. Because that's what we get paid for.
Right.
We agree.
The Constitution doesn't even provide for a party system, nor does the Federalist Papers address it. So I think what we're really seeing now is just people being tribalistic rather than democratic.
But the parties came into existence with Jefferson. That's a lot of stuff. And so it's been in place for
Doesn't mean it's right.
Well, the Federalist Papers, Madison called them factions as opposed to parties. And he was totally against them for the exact reason that we're living today.
But it's fascinating because I think you can consider factions to be ever-changing and just evolving groups depending on the policy. Whereas parties are kind of just like conglomerations of people agreeing to continue to be in these groups. Like factions are changing, except parties aren't.
Well,
Parties have
I don't-
institutionalized the faction.
Yeah.
And we now have the internet and all that wonderful stuff that keeps underscoring our differences for us. We won't even get into that tonight, but anyway, so that's what I do. I have, am I done? 3 minutes? Okay, I'm gonna read you the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution because words matter, and I'm gonna point out some words that people don't really focus on, okay? 14th Amendment is a really important amendment. It basically let the federal government have some jurisdiction over state goings-on, governance, okay? It was right after the Civil War, and before this, if you had a problem in your state with your state government, it ended at your state Supreme Court. You had nowhere to go. After the 14th Amendment, you could go into the federal system and get up to the Supreme Court of the United States about an issue that happened in your state, okay? Listen to how it's worded. First of all, do you know that we all have dual citizenship? Okay, all of us. We're citizens of the state in which we reside and the country. Why? Not because I think it's a good idea, but because the 14th Amendment says so. And it says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. That's why we have dual citizenship, because it's written here. That's number one. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, blah, blah, blah. Now, in that sentence, you have the word citizen and person. So clearly, the drafters understood that both those existed, and they chose to use the word person for the part that says, no state can deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process. It says in the phrase before that, the clause before that, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens voting. Okay? So this document was meant to apply not just to citizens, okay? It applies, why? Not because we think it's a good idea, but because it's written down. Those words are in here. And if you learn how to read this and interpret it, just a little bit. It doesn't have to be, I am not a constitutional lawyer by training. I'm just someone with training who decided to go into the Constitution a little deeper dive. We all can do it. Yes.
Can you spell out more clearly the difference between a citizen and a person?
A citizen is a person who has citizenship, who can vote, who has standing to vote.
Okay, so there were lots of people that didn't have a standing to vote when that was written.
Correct. That's why it was written that way.
So they weren't.
That's exactly right.
I don't think in 1868 when they passed the 14th Amendment that they argued that women were not citizens,
Yeah.
even though unquestionably 40 of the states at the time women could not vote until 1920. So I think yes, I think if you were to ask members of Congress in 1868 what they meant by that, they would unquestionably say, yes, we're referring to women included, our citizens, when we use that term here, even though they can't vote. So I don't think in 1868 they would.
Yeah, but that's an interesting conversation to have.
Well, any person born or naturalized is a citizen. That's
Yeah.
always fine.
And it includes former slaves, people in servitude.
I mean, this was passed to enforce.
Yes, the post-Civil War amendments. Anyway,
And today, that person, okay, the illegal alien in this country, if he's here, is a person.
is a person. That's exactly
Well,
right.
undocumented, yeah.
Undocumented,
Can I give one
sorry.
example?